Well, hello and a very good morning. Thanks for tuning in to News 9 Live. I'm Kabir Naqvi. Joining me here in the studio is my colleague and ardent newspaper reader, Varghese P. Abraham. And what we're essentially up to, for those of you who join us every day in the morning here, well, you guys know the drill. Get out in the comment sections. Help us break these walls of, newsroom editorial meets so that you can become part of it as well. The idea of this show is to take a look at overnight developments, take a look at the top headlines, English, Hindi, regional, newspapers from down south, some tabloid headlines. Varghese has a keen focus on Kerala, and not just that, we're also going to take a look at what the social media is abuzz with, our X, Instagram, Facebook, well, you name it. If there's something that's going viral, we'll definitely be talking about it. We have, of course, perused through the newspaper, and Varghese, it seems like today we've got a longer list, and every time we decide that, it shouldn't be as long a list, let's focus down on...
the stories keep coming in.
The stories do keep coming in, but I mean, the filtration process, we've got to put in a little, more layers over there, because take a look at this. The Congress has invited back its old dissenting leaders. दैनिक जागरण says, लोस चुनाव से पहले खरगे ने पुराने दिग्गजों व नए चेहरों से सजाई कांग्रेस कार्य समिति. That's what we're learning across various newspapers. On the front page, you've also got it over there. It's the Spanish women's team that have bagged their first ever FIFA World Cup. That's also something that we'll talk about, because it seems like England, the Lionesses had more to lose over here. Not just that, Russia's mooncraft crashes. Chandrayaan 3 is all set for landing. We're going to showcase you all of that. There is going to be a proper focus on that, and News 9 is going to be your headquarters central. I mean, after ISRO, this particular studio is going to be the central. We've got lots and lots planned in the run-up to the landing, our soft landing on the dark side of the moon. And that's not all. I'm reading here, officer raped friend's teen daughter, wife gave abortion pills. This is coming in from the police. And a senior officer in the Delhi government's Women and Child Development Department has been booked for this, alleged crime. It's abhorrent, and it's quite shocking. In the 1995 Bihar double murder case, it says ex-member of parliament's conviction ends. 28-year ordeal for victims' families. The family says, we lived in fear, Varghese. What are some of the top page headlines that you're tracking?
Well, there is another shocking thing. There are 3 held after Muslim couple beaten to death in hate crime. The victim's son had eloped with a Hindu woman. However, the woman said that she fled with him willingly. So that has resulted in the death of the, the couple, because their son eloped with a Hindu woman. So that is another issue. Then the Mahapanchayat, which was supposed to be held in Delhi, has been stopped because
that was stopped because of hate speech.
Hate speeches that were there. It was supposed
and this
to
is
have
not
been
the
held
first case, Varghese. This is not the first case of hate speech in the national capital. But that's not all. We're also going to focus on Manipur, ladies and gentlemen. The NH2, which is again a hotline for Manipur, that being blocked is again on the cards, even as there is a Naga angle at play, an alleged Naga angle rather. Don't want to put out the wrong kind of information out there, because I understand that a lot of people from Manipur have been constantly watching News 9, and I don't want them to us to be the dissenting factor over here. But like you can see on the wall over there, you've got Sachin Pilot, you've got the 2 lunar missions. One has unfortunately crashed. Actually, you know what, Varghese, even as we talk about the ongoing encounter that's happening in Pulwama, let's first and foremost focus on the 2 lunar missions. Right here on the front page, it says, Roscosmos announces loss of Luna-25, India on course to be on lunar south pole. And funnily, before Luna-25, people have been talking about, why are you comparing these 2 lunar modules? Luna-25, that has the Soyuz on the top, and the Soyuz has been, the linchpin between the Earth and the Moon and the International Space Station as well. So Soyuz has been right up there, and let's not forget, Soviet Union were the first to, hit the Moon. But at the same time, carrying more load, having put in more budget, they launched way after Chandrayaan, and they were set to land today. But it seems like, unfortunately, they lost
it is
some
a
sort
complex
of
operation.
It is what exactly happened?
The Roscosmos is quite, what I understand is that it had entered an orbit where it cannot control it. Basically, it looks like it's on board computing went wrong when it came to orbital issues and to actually find out which orbit it should have been, and also probably the firing did not go the way it was planned, and that's why it went into an orbit around the moon which cannot be controlled, as they say, and eventually the moon's gravity would have sucked it in, and that's how the crash would have taken place on the lunar surface. So it could have been a technical glitch within the software of the entire system, and it's, Kabir was saying, it's a coordination of different instruments. It's a coordination from Earth to the moon, literally. Because you're looking at
and
firing,
there's a delay over there as well.
Delay, I mean, there are seconds of delay also in that, but then at the same time you expect all these softwares to work perfectly for some kind of proper landing to take place. But it is not to be disheartened, because there is a kind of a statistic saying that when you look at the moon, the landings that you're looking at is especially probe landings is somewhere with a success rate of 70%. So you should give that 30% of failure happening. We did fail with Chandrayaan 2 when we tried to land the rover. Right. So it's not an easy task because of the complexities involved, and it's a very complex situation. But the previous successes, when we talk about the Luna probes that the Russians have been sending, was in part of what we call as the USSR. Now that country does not exist, and therefore the kind of funding and technological leverage that they had back then when it comes to the Russians or the Soviet Space Agency, of course, they were the first to send a satellite around, an artificial satellite around the Earth. They were the first to, in fact, send a man to space. So they have a lot of firsts, and probably, they are the first to, in fact, land a probe on the surface of Venus as well. From the whatever little we know about Venus comes from a Russian this thing. So I don't think so. We should take the Russian thing as a failure. It's just part of that, ever experiencing part of it. So it is going to be that. But when you're talking about the launch vehicle, of course, their workhorse has always been a rocket that has been improved upon, and it does prove its mettle, because it did take this probe all the way to the moon within 5 days. So it's not the problem with the launch vehicle. Probably it would have been with softwares and the requisite
they said it's a technical glitch.
It's a technical glitch. So
they said it was a technical glitch.
So but I think I'm waiting for more details to come out, because then we can actually find out
somebody has done Amitabh Sinha has done an explained version on the Indian Express, the National Daily. It says what the Luna-25 crash tells us about moon landings. Spacecraft touched down on the moon in the 1960s. Why then are modern space agencies struggling with soft landing, with 4 missions failing in the past 4 years? So, I mean, that's again important to look here, Varghese, that we started our moon missions back in the 1960s. What are we sitting at? About almost 50 plus years now? More than half a century later, why are modern space agencies still struggling with soft landing, with 4 missions failing in the past 4 years? There's a low success rate. There are some numbers that have been given here. It says 50 missions were sent by the erstwhile Soviet Union into the moon, of which 28 involved landing on the lunar surface. Now, 50 missions were sent by the erstwhile Soviet Union, 28 involved landing on the lunar surface. 10 of the 28 succeeded, highlighting the high rate of failure.
That's what I was trying to say. That is,
now the future of Luna missions.
Success with Luna-9.
The future of Luna missions. It says Luna-25 was just the resumption of the Russian interest in the moon. It was named to signify the continuation of the lunar series, which the then Soviet Union used to reach the moon 50 years ago. Luna-24, launched in 1976, was the last spacecraft to land on the moon's surface before lunar missions came to an abrupt halt and remained suspended for almost 2 decades. Russia has announced more lunar missions to follow Luna-25, at least 3 more in the series that are planned in this decade itself.
So, as I was saying, Luna-9 was the first success that they had, but then they have a series of failures as well. And it is not easy to land on another planet or a heavenly body. It's not easy at all. And the kind of, but what we would say is by the now we would have reached that technology which had technically taken off those glitches. But unfortunately in the 1970s, both the United States as well as the Russians just realized how much it is bleeding their exchequer and decided to ensure to end all kind of moon kind of the US, of course, the crewed missions, and the Russians with regard to the probes that they were sending. So both of them just quickly ended it. But now, Kabir, there is another issue that has come up, is that everyone is having an ambition when it comes to Mars. So they want to try out new technologies that could be carried out for Mars missions especially, and where to test it better than a near heavenly body like the moon. So some of those technology demonstrators need to be tested, and that is why we see this renewed interest on the moon. And at the same time, the Chinese are the different group of people in all the spacefaring nations, because they are having a military cum civilian run space mission. And you know what is the aim of it? It is to ensure that you have a colony on the moon. That is, you have a manned
there are so many
Netflix,
series that I remember I watched. I'm forgetting the name of it. It was about colonizing the moon. I mean, a comical take on colonizing the moon. The Times of India has done, the Times of India has done this really nicely. It says declining space power questioning. In 1957, the erstwhile USSR was the first to launch the satellite to orbit the Earth, Sputnik 1, and Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first man to travel into space in 1961. His picture photograph still in large frame, placed at the International Space Station as well. Space missions have been delayed. Over the past 3 decades, Russia has considered various missions which were delayed or shelved. Oriole, a modern replacement for the Soyuz capsule, is likely to make its maiden flight in 2028. And in 2020, back in 2020, Roscosmos had said that the maiden flight would take place in 2023, this year, but now that has been shelved or delayed. There's another column on Vanity and Graph. Take a look at this. Scientists say Russian space program has been weakened by poor managers keen on unrealistic vanity space projects and corruption. They also blame it on the decline in the rigor of post-Soviet scientific education system. Failure of 2011 Phobos grunt mission to one of Mars's moons underscored the challenges. It could not even exit Earth's orbit and fell back to Earth into the Pacific in the year 2012. War and sanctions. Let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, more than a years-long war with Ukraine, Western sanctions. For the longest time, it was Russia versus the West, not rest, but West. Failure comes as Russia's $2 trillion economy faces its biggest external challenge for decades, pressure of both Western sanctions and fighting the biggest land war in Europe since World War II. And media downplays. Russian state television put the news of Luna-25 loss at number 8 in its lineup at noon and gave it just 26 seconds of coverage. There's another Chinese angle here, ladies and gentlemen. Then we'll move on to Chandrayaan, what's happening with our own little baby up there. Treacherous mission. China is the only country to have landed on the moon successfully this century 3 times. Most recently in December 2020, 3 other missions have crashed, landed in recent years. Most recently an attempt by iSpace, a Japanese company. Its Hakuto R mission, one lander crashed in April when a software glitch led the vehicle to misjudge its altitude. But the bigger question is, we attempted this in 1960, Varghese. 1960, 50 plus years.
I mean, the technology then, no, I'm saying that the technology then did not have that kind of, the memory power to actually carry on with the kind of computations that we can carry right now. But still, no matter how much we've advanced, we've still not mastered space journey and sending a probe to the moon. But still, we are making that progress. And I think right now the moon will be the staging ground. And in the future, probably, Kabir, when you are in your retirement age, when people go for retirement sightseeing, you will be going to the moon. Well, this is how we are looking at the orbiter.
This is our own lander, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Let's shift our focus here. Because even as there was a race with Chandrayaan 3 of Luna-25 and Chandrayaan 3, let's take a look at what's happening with our own Chandrayaan 3. Both the Luna-25 and Indian probe Chandrayaan 3 that started on the 14th of July were on the way to the moon's south pole. Permanently shadowed polar craters are thought to contain frozen water in rocks that could transform into air and rocket fuel. And if that happens, imagine moon being the jump start position, propelling. I mean, you go to the moon, you take a little stop, and then you go into the galaxy.
Let's go to Mars. I know.
Only 3 governments, ladies and gentlemen, have managed successful moon landing so far. The Soviet Union, the United States and China. And now, soon, it is going to be our own, very own Vikram, because lander Vikram with the Pragyan rover that it houses is set for moon landing on Wednesday. Chandrayaan 3 entered the last lap of its historic journey to the moon early on Sunday, with lander Vikram completing its second and final second and final deorbiting maneuver, slowing down the spacecraft and taking position into the pre-landing orbit of 25 kilometers to 134 kilometers. So, like you can see, the closest point between the lander in the orbit and the ground is just 25 kilometers now. That's the closest point in the elliptical orbit. And there is a time now. Earlier, we got that tweet information by, ISRO that told us that there you can see 25 kilometer into the 134 kilometer, orbit line. And this is the closest point. Earlier, we got information that it's going to happen somewhere between 5:30 to 6:30 on Wednesday. You can count on News 9. Do tune into News 9. Do log on to our web pages and Instagram handles to get to know the exact moment and the build up. We've got some next level experts, top notch scientists that are going to be joining us in the run up to that touchdown. But in the meantime, right now, take a look at this. The second deorbiting maneuver for lander module of Chandrayaan 3 spacecraft was performed successfully. 6:04, 6 p.m. 4 minutes, 6:04 par, there is going to be the soft landing, and India is going to become the 4th nation on this planet, Varghese, to
we just
successfully
keep our hands,
soft land.
We just need to keep our fingers crossed.
It's the last 1 hour, right? It's the last 1 hour.
It's the last 1 hour, which is very crucial, because that is when the aircraft starts. The spacecraft in fact starts mapping on the surface and decides on its landing place, and at the same time, it will be continuously feeding in information as well. Its onboard softwares will start working in, and it will try to determine whether it can land safely. It will try to give all the requisite data for the firing of those engines to ensure that there is a soft landing. And as I said, it is a very complex kind of a situation that we are seeing when we are attempting the kind of lunar landing that we are attempting at. But once we reach the pole, I think one of the things that we don't give credit to ISRO is that ISRO is the one that discovered water in that area of the South Pole.
The first Chandrayaan
mission, and second kind of gave it an impetus also. But then one of the things about that southern pole area is also the fact that there is a speculation now that when it is on the side of the sun, when sunlight is falling on it, there's a possibility that there's a very thin atmosphere is a possibility over there, because the water evaporates and then when it goes to the dark side, it comes. So that is a possibility, and that is where the speculation has been going on, whether water is there on the lunar surface. And as I said, it would be a staging port. The South Pole, if everything goes well and if colonies are built, it will be the staging port for your interplanetary missions.
Will we be alive for all of this?
That's why I said, when Kabir,
really
you are about
all of
your
this,
retirement,
your
retirement tourism might be on the moon.
That, I mean, with whatever's happened with the submersible recently, you would think about, taking these hefty tours, adventure tourism,
that's why
take it to the next level.
After you retire, and then you can make a proper decision on it.
Anyway, all right. So 6 p.m. 4 minutes, 1804 hours on Wednesday is when Chandrayaan is expected. That's the stipulated and estimated time of touchdown on the lunar surface. It's a soft landing. The final deboost maneuver, Chandrayaan's lunar lander Vikram has slipped into its pre-landing orbit of 25 by 134 kilometer around the moon. Vikram is scheduled to make soft landing on the South Pole at 6:04 p.m. on the 23rd of August. Do join us, ladies and gentlemen. The module would now undergo, interesting. The module will now undergo internal checks and wait sunrise at the designated landing site, because sunrise is important. We need one full lunar day. One full lunar day means 14 days back at home. So 14 days is worth of research. It all depends on our landing time. It must be in synchronized with the sunrise on the lunar surface.
Also, Kabir, when we look at Chandrayaan, it's got specific missions to do. I mean, this Chandrayaan, if they are able to land, and it's very specific, it's not going to be very elaborate. The idea is to have a specific goal and not to be, roaming around over there. That's why the instrumentation on the Chandrayaan 3 is also on those purposes.
Absolutely. So we've got better, modifications this time around. We've got, various seismic activity readers. We've got iron and ground surface level density,
recorders.
A lot of stuff is going to be gauged. Experiments after experiments. Today we're also...
And all in 14 days.
Today we're also, lining up that particular show on the history, the rocket history of, Indian space program. That is also on the card, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to happen at 12 today, I think, Varghese. Do tune in for that as well. So, fingers crossed, ladies and gentlemen. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Let's see on 23rd how it is going to be.
23rd of August, Wednesday, 6 p.m. 4 minutes is when Chandrayaan 3, our own module, is going to finally complete that journey. All orbiting maneuvers are over. Some final checks are left, and then we're going to touch down. We're just 25 kilometers above the lunar surface right now. It's quite important. It is going to be a red letter day, a big, big day in Indian history. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to some political twists and drama. And, before we shift our focus to Manipur, Varghese, this is something that, I just want to know what is your understanding of this, because see what has happened. I'm just thinking about Ghulam Nabi Azad. I mean, he was one of those dissenting leaders. He finally moved out, and he started his own party, and now the Congress bagged Karnataka. There's some sort of, there is some sort of rumblings with the INDIA alliance, that's trying to pull together a strategy, weave together a strategy. And now the G23 leaders, the top rebels, and Sachin Pilot, somebody that you can see over there on the big wall, they have been roped in. They're back in the working committee. Well, the Congress's working committee. What does this indicate? Where is this heading?
See, it talks about two things. One is that the realization in the Congress that you need some of those grey-haired men to actually guide you. Secondly, you also have to keep in tune with the aspirations of the second and third rung of leadership in the party, and therefore
the next gen.
You have to have that representation also in the CWG, because you need it is having a kind of a combined strategy where old horses know how the things work on the ground. The new horses would know how to use the social media as well as trigger out a kind of an opinion making. And the third, the third group of horses, of whom I would call, are the ones who are going to learn from the old horses as well as from the horses that have just taken over this. So it is what would rightly be called as, you have a trainee group, and you have the veterans, and the veterans are being
the
old guards and veterans, in fact, and then you have the actual executive, the guys who are keeping things right on the
Sachin
ground.
Pilot over there.
Sachin Pilot is a very important name.
Shashi Tharoor, Sachin Pilot, Shashi Tharoor, Sachin Pilot, Gogoi are back in the new CWC. Is this Kharge's balancing act before elections? Because, and why I'm asking you this is because the old guard has been retained, but the party has failed to live up to its Udaipur resolve of 50 under 50.
Yeah, that is also there. And then also the main CWC now has 39 members, up from 25 in the previous avatar. So just imagine that this has been the kind of accommodation that they have been looking at. And when it comes to the accommodation, if you have increased the number in that group from 25 to 39, it just shows that what I was trying to tell you. They were trying to not only get the veterans, they were getting the youngsters also onto the pitch, the second and the third rung. They're trying to get all the three of them
in this a message to Rajasthan, is what the Indian Express has written over here. Sachin Pilot's entry into the CWC is a clear message to the rank and file in Rajasthan ahead of the assembly elections later this year.
They want to
his induction means that the party values his role, but it also takes the pressure off of Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot.
They want to in fact put out that Pilot is not standing outside the Congress. He is within the Congress itself. Though in Rajasthan we have seen that Pilot having his own decisions being taken, to the point that some people said that he would launch his own party, to the point that some said that he's going to join the BJP. So the messaging is out clear that when he is part of this decision-making executive of the Congress party, of course this is going to be quite pivotal when it comes to Rajasthan elections. And it's not only Rajasthan elections. Remember, all these people are being given a double task. It is to ensure that you deliver on the assembly front as well as the 2024 Lok Sabha front.
Absolutely. And is this Pilot's advantage? And why I'm asking you this is, because how about I just read it out? Back in 2020, Pilot lost his twin posts of PCC President and Deputy Chief Minister after his rebellion against Ashok Gehlot, which triggered a month-long political crisis in Rajasthan. Last year, Gehlot supporters skipped an official Congress Legislative Party meeting and tendered their resignations to foil the High Command's efforts to install Pilot as the Chief Minister. Remember, when the AICC presidency was also being talked about, Kharge, Gehlot, Shashi Tharoor, who is it going to be? That Pilot has not been given any other responsibility in the form of a post at the party's central level or as in charge of any state, which works to his advantage, as Pilot has made it clear that he has no intention of moving away from Rajasthan politics. politics. Rajasthan Congress truce likely to hold. Gehlot camp quiet as Sachin Pilot enters the CWC. But take a look at what's happening in Maharashtra.
You know, you need to also keep a lot of them together, and that is the reason why because
I'm sure.
When you said about
this is
Sachin
a
Pilot,
Mallikarjun Kharge decision.
yes, but when you talked about Pilot, the question over here is what it is more about accommodation right now. You were saying about Maharashtra.
In Maharashtra, ladies and gentlemen, the Congress Working Committee has done another rejig. Chavan has been nominated to the decision-making body. This is the former Maharashtra Chief Minister Ashok Chavan, and Balasaheb Thorat is out of the CWC. So a major rejig over there. What's going to happen with Maharashtra numbers? Because Maharashtra numbers is again very crucial. What's happening with NCP?
Because so the only party that does not have an alliance or that has not been broken into two is now remaining is the Congress, and there have been speculations saying that from the Congress also you would actually see leaders breaking away. So does this rejig actually give that impetus for it or not? Maybe we have to just wait and watch.
लोस चुनाव से पहले लोकसभा चुनाव से पहले खड़गे ने पुराने दिग्गजों व नए चेहरों से सजाई कांग्रेस कार्य समिति। प्रियंका गांधी वाड्रा, सचिन पायलट, शशि थरूर और मनीष तिवारी को पहली बार जगह। और दूसरी तरफ ahead of Rajasthan polls, Pilot makes it to the CWC. Of the 23 dissents, Mukul Vasnik, Anand Sharma and Shashi Tharoor have been included. Manish Tiwari and Virappa Moily also part of group that has been made permanent invitees. Sachin Pilot, who rebelled in 2020, was removed as Rajasthan Deputy Chief Minister, is among the new members. New additions is ex-Maharashtra Chief Minister Ashok Chavan, N.R. Reddy, T. Sahu, Deepa Das Munshi, Syed N. Hussain, Mahendrajit Singh Malviya, G. A. Mir, Gaurav Gogoi, Jagdish Thokare. New permanent invitees, also some big names. Kanhaiya Kumar over there, Varghese.
That's actually one big name that you're
Kanhaiya Kumar in the, so basically it's not just all veterans, it's veterans and young field politicians. The ground level workers,
there's a reason
they have been roped in.
So that's why I was saying they have been, see, there is a mix in this, and if they've increased the numbers, there's a reason for it. One of the biggest accusations against the Congress has been that it has been losing out on its grass level connect, and therefore it wanted grass level connecting leaders at any cost. So the CWG is also focusing on that, and as I said, this is also a trainee group that is there in that, 25 to 39. In that, when they increase that numbers, you have a trainee group there, and their trainee group is to learn from the veterans and those who are handling the situation right now. Finally, the Congress has understood that you cannot run everything only on the veteran's shoulder.
Absolutely. So what's going to happen with the Congress? We'll have to wait and find out, ladies and gentlemen. Let's quickly shift our focus to Manipur, where Kuki bodies have again, threatened that they're going to block the National Highway 2. Varghese, National Highway 2 has been so important for Manipur. Even as the ethnic clashes began, we were talking about how the NH2 was needed for relief material to be sent.
It's a lifeline.
It certainly is a lifeline. It's a heartline, bang on center, and trade is also very important on that because of that NH2 route.
Yes, this is what happened. A tribal body, as I said, Strife Manipur announced on Sunday that it would reimpose the blockade of the vital Dimapur-Imphal National Highway 2 from early hours of Monday. The blockade is likely to affect supply of essentials to the valley areas where the Methi people live. So I don't need to say more to it. This is the entire thing. The Committee of Tribal Unity Kotu Konkopi said that it is statement that the highway would be blocked in protest against the failure of the government of India to protect the Kuki Zoo community and its failure to ensure free movement of goods meant for the hill districts. However, the Manipur police posted on X, former Twitter, on Sunday, movement of 163 vehicles along NH2 with essential items has been ensured. Strict security measures are taken up.
So there is movement that's happening.
They are saying there are movement, but once you see the blockade happens, it just piles up. You see, the Manipur's lifeline is NH2, and through that NH2, a lot of it,
that exactly is the
your
NH2
basic medicine, your food,
army movement, bus movement.
I mean, NH2 is very vital. It is
rations, relief
it is a
material,
jugular vein of
ambulances.
Manipur.
Take a look at that. You've got cars, army vehicles. We just saw public transport as well, and then an ambulance as well. So we understand just by this short clip of NH2 how important this particular national highway is. We're talking about trying to restore peace on the ground. Independence Day celebrations have happened. So much has ensued. even as we're talking about a peace, 3 new renewed killings recently at that, Naga-dominated area. Not suggesting that the killings happened, at the hands of Nagas, but a Naga-dominated area in Ukhrul where the 3 killings happened. They were village volunteers safeguarding their own, village, the 3 Kuki men. And they were killed. So fresh violence again. So you're back to square one, and now you're talking about blocking this highway again. How does that's like taking 10 steps back.
Well, it looks like the idea is to in fact ensure there is more pressure on the state government. That is the idea behind it, and also to ensure that the centre listens to it, because as I told you, this is a very crucial highway that helps in ensuring all the essential supplies reaches Manipur's Imphal area as well. Now, senior government officials said that another route in the south to deliver supplies to the hill areas of Chuchanpur and Tingpol have been blocked by Methi groups. So it is not only NH2 that has been blocked. There is a road that goes towards the hills that has been blocked by the Methi groups. So blocks and counter blocks, it still continues like that now. And on August 19th, an Assam Rifles convoy from Imphal could not proceed to deliver medicines which included vaccines for children to Kuki-dominated Chuchanpur. So this is the level at which the blockade is taking place, and I think that blockade has what has resulted in this counter blockade on National Highway by the Kukis. And Kabir, the saddening part of all this is that we have reached nowhere. It's just going on.
Absolutely. And, even as we're talking about the National Highway 2 being blocked, there's one more angle at play here, buddies, which is of the fact that the torture and killings of the 3 Kuki villages, the ones that I was exactly talking about, in the first such attack in Naga-dominated Ukhrul district since the ethnic strife in Manipur erupted in May, prompted the insurgent outfit NSCN IM to declare on Sunday that Nagas don't want the sectarian violence spilling into their areas under any circumstances, terming the act of targeting the Kuki trio within the jurisdiction of Nagalim an unwarranted intrusion. The NSCN IM said on August 18th that killings at the Sipjiang village near Thowai were the handiwork of the proscribed Kangli Yovol Kanalup KYKL and a Naga outfit that it said does not represent the community's interest and welfare. So NSCN IM has linked Naga outfit to the Manipur killings. And what is the NSCN? Well, the NSCN itself is, it is a Naga body essentially. And it's saying that there is a Naga outfit that is behind this Manipur killing, but this has got nothing to do with us. Stay out of our area, essentially.
See, NSCN IM, especially Isaac Movia faction, NSCN IM is National Social Council of Nagaland, who has been fighting an insurgency with the government of India for quite some time. And they have now been in talks with the government of India. And because right now they are in peace talks, and they have been asking for Naga-dominated areas of Mani to be integrated with their greater idea of Nagalim, which they've been calling. Right. So Isaac Movia faction coming out and speaking, for me it is a worry, because on one side, of course, they've been trying to allay that they don't want to be involved in it. But then there are several such splinter groups of the NSCN which is operating. So you don't know which splinter group could do what. So that is another factor. And then remember, Kabir, as I was saying, for me the worry would be if all the ethnic communities come into a situation of conflict right now. Because as of now, since law and order has not been restored to a large extent for the last almost 3 months, this killing and probable factors that splinter groups could be involved is also going to be very difficult to handle. So NSCN's
it says the Manipur Naga Revolutionary Front, the MNRF, was being sponsored by the valley-based KYKL, which is an armed Methi group. The allegation came a day after the World Kukizo Intellectual Council named the 2 outfits as being involved in the Ukhrul killings, inviting an immediate rebuttal from the KYKL. The latter said it had no connection, however, remote with the killings of the 3 Kuki
See,
youths.
this is what I was saying.
So there is now blame game that's continuing
between the groups. So one of the groups has surely done it.
Nagas.
So now, if the Nagas are being, Nagas have been out of this conflict for this thing, but why is the Nagas also being, or there's an attempt to involve the Nagas also into this? So I think right now, the government of India the state government should get their act together, because this shouldn't become a complete full-blown ethnic divide in Manipur between all the three communities.
Right, and even as we're talking about these two particular aspects, there are two more aspects. One that I wouldn't want to touch upon as much because I still don't have personal, information on that. Which is the fact that what is going to happen with the Manipur Assembly? It was supposed to convene today.
See,
10 tribal leaders
initially it was said that
boycotting the
I was telling you, we discussed it on Friday also, that the Kuki MLAs were not in a position to go ahead and attend this meet, because then they were talk about resolution to be passed in the council saying over the unity and territorial integrity of Manipur, which goes against a separate administration demand and probably furthering the demand for a Kuki land or a state for Kukis. That was the major issue. But then this speculation has been going on whether it's going to happen, it's not going to happen. Kuki MLAs worried about their safety, others, the Methi saying that the resolution need to be pushed, the Methi MLA saying the resolution need to be pushed. All this has been going on, but right now it's like a big speculation going on whether it's going to happen or not. Right?
You spoke about safety, and before we move on, there's one more aspect of safety that we must talk about, which is of offering aid to the displaced people. There's trauma in the children. At least 10,000 people are out of education
More
right
than
now.
that now. 14,000 is the last.
Mizoram is going to offer aid to displaced Manipuris. This is not Kukis, Methis, displaced Manipuris. Mizoram will start disbursing this week humanitarian assistance to the nearly 13,000 internally displaced persons from strife-scarred Manipur taking shelter in the state, reports HC Vanala Ruata. And in the Times of India. The Mizoram Finance Department has sanctioned rupees 5 crore, and the money will be released to the IDPs, the internally displaced people, persons, through the DC's State Home Commissioner. The State Home Commissioner has said so. The centre is yet to provide rupees 10 crore sought by Chief Minister Zoramthanga for the internally displaced, despite pleas to Prime Minister Modi and Amit Shah. Now, the IDPs are now barely able to make ends meet with the assistance provided by the district administration and the donations from civil society. So, the situation on the ground certainly looking very, very bleak. You've got NH2 that's going to be blocked, calls for it being blocked. A Naga body calling out a Naga body for the recent killings that happened in Ukhrul. Meanwhile, what's going to happen with the Manipur Assembly? And lastly, at least nice to see that, Mizoram is lending that helpful hand, and it has continuously been doing so. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's quickly shift our focus again. Let's talk about the rain fallout, Varghese. This time around, our Mandi man, Varghese P. Abraham, in the studio. What's happening with the tomato ka price? What's happening with the tomatoes, with the onions? We were earlier reporting that onions are going to make us teary-eyed again, and that is somehow a little bit happening because onion prices are going up.
Slowly going up. In fact,
what's the market price right now?
See,
what was it last time you visited?
Last time when I visited
the Noida Mandi, is it?
The Noida Mandi. Last time I visited, the onion prices from 30 had moved to 40. And then the tomato prices,
ladies and gentlemen.
Tomato prices varied. So there were some places where they're giving from 70 to 100. I mean, depending on the quality of the tomatoes that you were taking. So tomato prices have fallen. But the Hindu has this very interesting article on that.
Right.
Pulses prices may spiral as deficient rain mars sowing. What are the pulses that we're probably looking at?
Pulses again, Varghese, a stockhold option for every household.
Yes. So, economists reckon that prices of pulses such as tur dal and moong dal, which surged at 34.1% and 9.1% respectively in July, could likely spiral further. So, this is because the total sown area for dals is 114.9 lakh hectares as on August 18th, is unlikely to improve much, and deficient rainfall toward the end of the sowing season. Sown area for cereals and rice, which was lagging behind last year's levels still a few weeks ago, have now inched up to grow at 1.6% to 4.3%. Well, tomato prices may be cooling from recent but pulses could play the next spoilsport in the battle against inflation, with below par monsoon in August dragging down the sown areas of pulses and kharif season by almost 10% from last year. So I think we are going to see our dals becoming really costly.
That's really going to hit the household budgets, isn't it?
It is. See, on one side you try to manage the tomatoes, which just went off the roof, and now pulses is something that we use in our daily, nutritional needs as well. So, and pulses is the backbone for a lot of people when it comes to their, habit as well, when it comes to their food as well. So, it should be worrisome because it is going to be, and just small this thing below last year's levels, as I was saying, 10% compared to minus 7.9% previous week. On the back low of sowing of both urad dal and tur dal, which is at minus 15.3% and minus 6.4% when it comes to.
Look at all that gold on the screen, Varghese. Look at all that gold.
Well, I think we are going to see our food being on the higher end, and inflation being driven by food inflation, basically.
Absolutely, and needless to say, this is going to pinch and burn pockets of the lower middle class. Certainly, the poor already are unable to afford a lot many things, and this is certainly going to hit them further on as well. Where was it that you were reading, Varghese, and yes, of course, shifting our focus here, about the hate speech and the Mahapanchayat that was called off? Was it in the Hindustan Times?
Well, there is a portion in the Hindustan Times that was there, and interestingly enough, it talked about how that hate speech had to be completely brought down, because suddenly there were screen grabs of the Hindu Sena making that kind of a hate speech, and it resulted in the police also being quite worried, because remember, in Gurugram they were worried immediately, but the police action ensured that the violence did not spread more than a day, though there was tensions when it came to it. But then the hate speech did in fact become a big problem, and they have taken immediate action because they didn't want the national capital to be in trouble, especially when it came.
This is what the headline says. It says police pull the plug on meet over Nu in Delhi after hate speeches. Alleged hate speeches against Muslims and remarks provoking Hindus against the minority community were made by speakers at the Hindu Mahapanchayat organized at Jantar Mantar in New Delhi on Sunday to discuss the July 31 communal violence in Nu. Police officers aware of the matter said so. Now, Yati Narsinganand, the controversial head priest of Ghaziabad's Dasna Devi temple, were among the speakers for which the police gave. And Yati Narsinganand, is there a case against Yati Narsinganand of hate speech back in the day? Has there been? Well, I'm not so sure. Yati Narsinganand, the controversial head priest of Ghaziabad's Dasna Devi temple, he was amid the attendants and the attendees. He was part of the speaking group as well. The police gave verbal permission. According to the organizers, the police, however, denied giving permission to hold the event. According to officers present at the venue, they intervened and stopped the event when the speakers started giving hate speeches. They said that they removed Yati Narsinganand from the venue and dispersed nearly 100 people who had assembled to participate in the event. The event came just 9 days after the Supreme Court on August 11 said that hate speeches against any religious community are unacceptable. Some sensitization, beg your pardon, has to be done among the police force as well. On that, we would like the assistance of centre and states. There are problem areas. After all, it is in the interest of everybody to have peace, said the Supreme Court in its observation. Let's not forget, Varghese.
So now, that observation has become quite...
that's the Jantar Mantar area.
That's the Jantar Mantar area where
you can see Yati Narsinganand over there as well.
That is when this meet was being held, and immediately they had to disperse it because of the hate speeches that were there, and the total open call out of one community and then trying to vilify them, it has been going on, and suddenly at least there is some action that has been taken. But the part of it does not end there, Kabir. There is another shocking story just on the front page about how this interfaith couple, they had to in fact pay the price on this. So I think you should take it from this hate speech to that.
Absolutely. No, that is something that we will touch upon as well. Just to touch a little bit upon, what Yati Narsinganand said at the meet. A purported video clip of Yati's speech at the event was circulated on social media on Sunday. In the alleged video clip, the head priest can be heard saying that he came to attend the event despite not keeping well. He said while the population of Hindus is decreasing, the number of Muslims is increasing in India. He says, and this is the Hindustan Times quoting him, If the Muslims continue to grow like this, the fate of Hindus will be the same as it was for 1,000 years in the past, and the Hindus will face the same fate as they did in Kashmir, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Syria, Iraq and Arab. If it continues, Hindus will have no land to live. They will have to die in oceans. Decide which ocean you Hindus want to drown and die in, Yati says in that particular video, for which he was removed from the spot, and for this particular hate speech the event was completely called off. But you rightly pointed it out, and let's talk about that as well, Varghese. Aapki bhi murad puri kar di jaye. Right here on the front page it says, 3 held after Muslim couple beaten to death in hate crime. So from hate speech, take a look at hate crime as well. A Muslim couple in Uttar Pradesh's Sitapur district was allegedly beaten to death by neighbors after their son reportedly eloped with a Hindu woman 2 months ago, the police said on Sunday. 3 people have been arrested and efforts are on to nab 2 others. So basically, the neighbors beat up the Muslim couple because their son eloped with a Hindu girl. So, well, the price has had to be paid by the father. It's unreal, the kind of I don't know what to say. People just take law in their own hands. It just shouldn't happen. And this is not the first case. We've seen a similar pattern growing for the longest time now.
Well, I think a lot of interfaith couples will find it.
What would push you to the extent of going and beating your neighbors, beating them to death rather?
My question is, if the parents don't have a problem, all right, or they must have had a problem, or they had the course of connection, who are the neighbors to do it?
Yeah.
So that is exactly.
And even if you have a problem, there are proper institutions, ladies and gentlemen. Go hit the police, try knocking on some other institutions.
So this is where I fear that the amount of what I would call it as the kind of hate sensitization that has happened to the point that you act on it, that is the worrying factor over here.
They were thrashed to death. They were sitting outside their house peacefully and they were thrashed to death, as if they weren't worried about their own son eloping with a Hindu girl. And of course, needless to say, they were aware of the consequences that were that was pretty much coming their way as well.
Kabir, I just look at the 1980s, 1970s. Was this an issue? I mean, there were, of course, the families would have been, but you didn't go to the point of killing people over this. This is a country that has got so many faiths, so many different languages, so many. I mean, you cannot control anyone from having their own idea about what their spouse should be or what it should be. But if there was some kind of criminality to it, the fact remains is that it is not the law to be taken, the neighbors for them to take the law to their side and say some kind of justice is done. It is up to the police, it is up to the courts of this country. If there is a grievance, people can go and, put that across.
Absolutely.
But this is
I don't
actually a worrying trend.
Does this showcase the explicit power that citizens think they wield themselves, or is it the fact that their trust in the institution has gone down?
Vigilante justice or vigilante activism has become a norm, and that is the shocking part of it.
Yeah, a cow vigilante will pick up somebody, tie them in a car and burn the entire car, set them on fire, because that's justice, isn't it? Anyhow, let's hope that these 3 people who have been arrested do come to justice as well. Shifting our focus over here, Varghese, coming back to the national capital, where an officer raped a friend's teen daughter and the wife gave abortion pills. This has come to light from the police. This is a senior official in the Delhi government's Women and Child Development Department and has been booked for allegedly raping his friend's teenage daughter for several months, resulting in a pregnancy. He and his wife got aborted later. The Delhi police has booked the officer and his wife on the charge of rape and under sections of the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences, the POCSO Act, after the girl alleged she was raped by him several times between 2020 and 2021, and that his wife made her terminate the pregnancy by giving her abortion pills. Ugly, nasty, ghastly scenes.
Well, the FIR, I was just reading through that FIR. An FIR was launched on the case of Burari police station on August 13th, in which the couple was booked under IPC sections pertaining to rape, criminal intimidation, insulting a woman's modesty, causing hurt, causing miscarriage without consent, criminal conspiracy and common intention, along with relevant sections of the Protection for Children for Sexual Offences (POCSO) Act. No arrests have been made so far. Okay, the victim said that she was assaulted for over 4 months from October 2020 to February 2021 while she was staying at the official's home in Burari. She was 15 years old at that time. He added that the accused first met the victim and her family at a church in North Delhi. He offered to be the minor's guardian. Following the death of her father, a government employee, in the late 2020, he and the victim's mother had become really good friends by then. So when he proposed that the girl move into his house, her mother really agreed. The girl shifted in October 2020. Soon after, he began to sexually harass her.
How?
She was raped and molested several times over the next 4 months by the person whom she referred to as
Why
her
did the mother
uncle.
agree? There's so many things in this particular, case study that are just simply wrong. People outside would contest, say, what is society, what is fiction. I mean, these are structures that we have created ourselves. What is abnormal to you might not be abnormal to me. But, letting your daughter go live with the man, I'm speechless, is what I am.
And the part is that, for
And
me, the shocking
what's
part
more,
is this
what's
person,
more
in
is that
fact,
this is the Delhi, Department for Women and Child Development.
and this person met them at
This is the development.
at a church in North Delhi, especially at their vulnerable point, and he has in fact used their trust. He's in fact abused their trust, not used rather, abused their trust, manipulated her, and the kind of horror. And this is up for a lot of parents. I think they shouldn't, no matter how acquainted you are, no matter how friendly you are, one of the biggest thing is that always understand that sexual violence happens from a person who is known. In most of the cases, it is known to the victim. And here we can see a classic case where the trust of a widow and the trust of a child who had lost her father was abused. And we have to be very careful about
gut-wrenching.
Yes, it's
Gut-wrenching
gut-wrenching.
is
It's
the word.
gut-wrenching.
Gut-wrenching is the
They
word.
just need to be careful. I mean, all parents need to be careful
the
about whom they
official from
trust.
the Delhi, Department for Women and Child Development has said that the law will now take its own course, which it will, and let's just hope that they're brought to justice, and the police is able to probe this to the best of its capabilities and get down to the bottom of this particular case. Gut-wrenching, I'm going to say it again, gut-wrenching is the word. All right, shifting our focus to, and it's quite difficult to, move away from such stories. Nevertheless, got to do what you got to do. Talking about India's UPI prowess, digital transactions. Prime Minister Modi's speeches, Nirmala Sitharaman in the parliament, everybody has been constantly talking about India's digital, backbone. Digital transactions have been the backbone of our economy. Digital transactions, UPI, Bharat Pay, they're going to propel us, our economy to become the third largest economy by the end of the third term of Prime Minister Modi. At least that's what the Prime Minister right now is promising.
The Prime Minister has made that
But
very...
take a look at this. We've got international approval of that as well. A German minister who was here in the national capital, he went out to buy some groceries. He goes to a vegetable vendor, and there is a little, exchange. He uses his UPI, Varghese, and he's trying to use his UPI. He gets it, and there's
I saw those
there's a little
visuals, yeah.
expression on. How about the control room? Do we have those visuals? Can we throw those on air if that's possible? Because the German minister, he essentially, there's a little smile on his face, and he also goes like, he does a little, a surprised, reaction over there as well. Exactly. Can we, throw the volume up on this particular, visual?
Sir, do we have a coconut water guy here somewhere?
I'll check it out. Do I have coconut water?
Yeah. somewhere in the front there. Maybe that is.
We'll take it to flower market.
Yeah. I think we can walk there.
Yeah. That's done.
There you go. Received payment of.
So much. I didn't hear the amount, but you know, I could see the amused feeling in him when he
On the face of
UPI.
the German minister, and it's actually, you know, quite heartwarming to see that, you know, a minister who's come from Germany is here. He's using UPI, and he's you know, inspired. He's awe-inspired at the fact that, you know, even the vegetable vendors are using this digital capacity.
In fact, the UPI is being promoted by none other than the Prime Minister himself. He's spoken about the UPI, he's spoken about how it is being used, and you have his secretary is also demonstrating in front of foreign leaders as to how UPI is effective. And many of them have been surprised, and some of them have said that this has become the core strength of India, that its digital revolution is now making sure that
the backbone.
the safe access is what they say. But anyway, every system is a foolproof system. But the fact remains is that a safe access when it comes to digital transaction is actually letting people to have that convenience of trading without using, you know, your plastic money or the plastic card. So the next part of it is your what people say is that the software revolution when it comes to this, and we are probably the pioneers in it. When you have what we call from plastic money in terms of your Visa and debit card to soft money. So we are reaching that revolution where we would probably call it as soft money coming into place. And from your your
Varghese, you told me you don't keep all your soft money in one place.
Yes, that's I said, because all soft money.
Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that on here, was it?
No, I was saying is that when it comes to security, of course, everything is only foolproof. So how much of access you want to give to your money
absolutely
is something that we have to
international laurel. However, international approval, acceptance, appreciation coming from the German minister over there. Before we move on, let's play this exchange once again with you know, a complete nat.
That's done.
All right, that does put a smile to my face as well. Let's shift our focus now. International, let's cross the international border. Let's move on to Pakistan. And there's a major development that's taken place in Pakistan as well. Shah Mehmood Qureshi, the opposition leader in Pakistan, has been arrested. This after Imran Khan's downfall. Now it's Shah Mehmood Qureshi.
Well, it looks like there is an attempt to finish off.
Shahbaz Nawaz, that particular brotherly duo, is coming back into the limelight.
And
Pakistan has gotten IMF bailout. Situation still quite treacherous and in turmoil. But what does this arrest now tell us?
Kabir, it just means
Shah
that
Mehmood Qureshi, that's a big name.
You have
for
a
Pakistan
huge
politics.
establishment which is anti-Imran, and you have a huge establishment that wants Imran out of the political equation. You must know that traditionally, when it came to whatever the semblance of democracy that was there in Pakistan, it was always a fight between the Bhuttos as well as the Sharif on one side, Nawaz Sharif on one side, and his family. So it has been a family feud into which suddenly you have someone just dropping off from a jet and becoming the Prime Minister of Pakistan. And so now they're just getting rid of him, as simple as that. Because I think for them, they suddenly found that the ring, which was supposed to be for 2 boxes, is now crowded with 3 boxes, and they just want to get the 3rd boxer out. And Imran is out of the ring, and now they are just trying to dismantle his entire political missionary that's there in Pakistan.
There
so
is a case also.
You won't be able to.
There is a proper
corruption
case.
cases there.
Qureshi, who's 67, PTI's party vice chair, was arrested after he demanded a level playing field for PTI during the upcoming general elections. I think that's what their, most of the arguments have been, that it's not a level playing field. Imran Khan has been banking on, the people's sympathy and his own credibility and, fiefdom for a very long time. Pak ex-foreign minister arrested for leak of diplomatic cable. Pakistan's former foreign minister Shah Mehmood Qureshi, a close aide of jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan, has been arrested from his house here under the Official Secrets Act in Official Secrets Act in connection with the leakage of confidential diplomatic cable. Is this espionage? Is this treason?
It might mount to treason.
It?
It might, in Pakistani law, which is kind of similar to us, it might mount to treason.
Right.
And in Pakistan, of course, it's very simple. The law, the law is very simple when it comes to the politics of that place. You are in power as long as you enjoy the patronage of the military over there. And if you're out of their patronage and if you've fallen out with them, what will happen to Imran is what was going to happen to you. What happened to Nawaz Sharif when he was there, General Musharraf was there, is what's going to happen to you. So you better be in some kind of a patronage with the military for you to be still in power in what I would still call as, well, a semblance of democracy, nothing more than that, which is there in Pakistan.
Absolutely, and that's not all. I'm reading here that Shireen Mazari's daughter has been held. Kin call it abduction. Iman Mazari, the daughter of Pakistan's ex-human rights minister Shireen Mazari, was arrested Sunday from her residence for interference in state affairs, which is what the police is saying. The lawyer and activist was booked for interference in state affairs, staging a sit-in and resistance. For
basically trying to protest.
Right. On Sunday, Qureshi, again coming back to our very own former foreign minister of Pakistan, Shah Mehmood Qureshi. Qureshi appeared in a sessions court which granted the FIA a day's remand. He will be produced before the court on Monday. Quotation again here, he says, "I have not shared any such document with any unrelated person," is what Shah Mehmood Qureshi says. What does this mean for Pakistan politics?
It only means that there is a huge crackdown on Imran's entire political machinery, and those leaders who he had built as probable candidates for ensuring the continuity of the PTI, well, I think they are actually trying to axe down PTI right now.
Absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, shifting our focus here, we've got a pharma news, and no better person to talk about pharma news than Varghese P. Abraham over here. It says NMC has barred doctors from Pharma Co events. Why is this happening? Is this politically motivated? What's the actual tussle behind it? How does one look at this? I mean, doctors being barred to go from Pharma Co events.
Yeah, this particular story, when I first went through it, I was actually, I wanted to show you something, but then I think I'm not able to get that right now. There was, of course, the issue has always been the NMC being worried about the issue about how pharma companies have been trying to influence doctors to sell their products, and that has been an age-old system. For example, if you sell so much, you will get so much. Those kind of things were going on. So right now, it looks like they've come out right in the open to say that enough is enough, and you shouldn't become the marketer of that particular pharma company. So that is what they have been looking at when it comes to this aspect. But also, Kabir, the fact remains is that a lot of doctors are being involved into marketing, especially not their practice or something they are not supposed to, in fact. But then when it comes to certain pharma products, indirect marketing has been happening, and that is when this NMC has in fact brought in this particular aspect of it. So I think it's a welcome law, long time back. It's a welcome law when it comes to how pharmacy relations with the doctors are being regulated, other than for research purposes. But somewhere on the marketing front, this was highly required.
Okay, all right. This very morning, we got updates of an encounter that took place in that began in Pulwama. It was an ongoing operation. It seems like I've just received a little update on it, so I thought I'll just surprise the viewers on that, Varghese. It says a terrorist was killed in an encounter with security forces in Laro Parigam area of Pulwama district in Jammu and Kashmir. So one terrorist has been neutralized in that encounter that began early this morning. Combing operations all throughout. It was underway in Pulwama. It still is underway. The search and cordon operations are still underway. This is what we're learning. No visuals that we've got from there as of now. Deferred visuals in a while maybe. But Varghese, back to back encounters towards the end of last week. We saw Shopian, Kulgam, Kashmir, all those visuals that came in of the encounters that took place over there. Today, we're learning of Pulwama, that, an encounter was underway in Pulwama. One terrorist has been neutralized in the Laro Parigam area of Pulwama district in Jammu and Kashmir. And right here on the front page, ladies and gentlemen, these are visuals, the visuals that we were just showing you were exactly from Pulwama, the deferred shots that we received. One terrorist has been neutralized. Meanwhile, let's not forget, the encounter is not over yet in the Parigam area, the lower Parigam area of Pulwama district. The encounter, the search and cordon off operations continue, however. Right here on the front page, Varghese, and have you ever played chess before?
No, I'm not. I mean,
I know you're playing chess with your own life, but
no, I'm saying I in the formal setting, yes, I've not played that well, but yeah, I do follow chess.
So the headline says, will it be a Prague versus Carlsen final? Teens semi-final tie-breaker today. So it is, Prague's semi-final tie today.
Yeah.
Indian Grandmaster ties classical series against Caruana. It's a 7 games to break the deadlock. 1, 2 25-minute games with alternating colors. If still equal, there are going to be 2 10-minute games with alternating colors. If still equal, there are going to be 2 5-minute games with alternating colors. If still equal, a series of 3-minute games until the deadlock is broken with the provision of change in colors. Whoever strikes first wins the match without completing the color equality. It is going to be live webcast today at 4:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time on FIDA and Chess24 YouTube channels. Praganananda and Fabiano Caruana. The interesting bit here is, ladies and gentlemen, that if Prague beats Caruana, then it's going to be a Prague versus Carlsen. The headline here reads, it says, Pragu keeps calm despite intense pressure. And it's got a nice picture of, Praganananda over there as well. It just says, Pragu keeps calm despite intense pressure. And you got to give it to him. I mean, look at his face and look at the size of his competitor and his opponent. These are people that make you think that he's going to have a lot of opponents, but he's never going to have any enemy because of the way he's respected and revered in the chess industry.
In fact, a lot of people who have been following Pragnananda's game, most of them have been saying that he has a very calm composure, no matter what the situation is. He's very calm when he moves with his, he thinks quite well, and he's very calm with his moves, and you don't see anxiety at all when it comes to him. So I think that is the best way to keep going when it comes to chess.
Fingers crossed. Best luck, Pragu. Hopefully you get to the finals and you're able to beat Magnussen as well.
What about the Spanish Armada? You're not speaking about it?
The Spanish Armada. I'm so glad you picked it up, Varghese. Sporting news.
Well, there on the front page. All front pages have it.
History was made yesterday, ladies and gentlemen. The English team, the Lionesses, the women's football team of England, they've been winning back-to-back World Cups. The manager has been winning back-to-back World Cups. All the backline, the defenders, so many stalwarts of the team, the Lionesses. That's why they're called the Lionesses, well, because there's no, beating them. It's either the United States women's national team, or it's the, England's English Lionesses. But it seems like it's the Spanish Armada this time around, the Spanish women's Armada that have backed their first ever FIFA World Cup. And that's not all. They did it in style. It was a 1-0 slender lead, but the captain, she scored the goal. Take a look at what's written on the top page of the Hindustan Times over there.
Well, Spain beat captain's winner. Defender Carmona scored the goal that turned out to be the winner, rampaging from left back to thrash the ball in low and hard past England goalkeeper Mary Earps at the 29-minute mark.
Absolutely. Spain are the new world champions of women football. Only one other country, Germany, has both the men's and women's World Cup. So Spain has become the second country to have men and women's World Cups in their, trophy cabinet. Captain Olga Carmona's 29th minute goal turned out to be the match winner. So in just the 29th minute, the match was won. And it's usually, if it's a league game, they'd say a 1-0 game is a low-scoring match, it's a boring match. But when it's the World Cup final, well, everything is riding on the line. Your crew, your entire team, the entire roster is absolutely tired, fatigued because of the training, because of the long tournament. You finally reach the final. You got to be in your best shape, and it's more of a mental battle than a physical one. And the happiness and smiles on all these women, athletes. The tournament was watched by a record 2 million spectators and generated $570 million in revenue, which is the highest ever. FIFA boss Gianni Infantino called it the best and biggest and the greatest World Cup of all time. So that's on the sporting end, even as India beat, of course, Ireland. Last but not the least, of course, in some extreme weather events, we'll of course have to talk about what's been happening in Mexico. Varghese, in Mexico, the storms have ravaged the entire north area of the country, and that's not all.
California is preparing for bracing it in,
as well. Take a look at that, visuals. And we've seen exactly what has happened in Uttarakhand, in Himachal Pradesh. Sukhwinder Singh Sukhu, he's still dealing with how to provide aid materials and relief materials. But take a look at what's happening in Mexico.
Across the world, especially it's been an El Nino year.
This is North Mexico.
This is across the world, especially in an El Nino year. We've seen such extreme weather events happening. And, Kabir, El Nino was not this extreme. There used to be varied kind of weather patterns, but not this extreme. El Nino coupled with climate change and global heat waves, I think it's driving this entire world into a completely unpredictable weather situation where I think a lot of weather predictions are going to go wrong, and traditional climatic patterns are also going to change. Those who think that climate change is not happening, well, I think I need to ask them that rethink again.
Absolutely. Again, scary visuals coming in from North Mexico. When it came to snowfall, California even saw snowfall this time around. That weird anomaly that happened when there were blizzards and snowstorms in the winters in the United States. And this time around, California is again preparing itself for floods because this storm has taken North Mexico, by the throat completely.
And California has a lot of freakish weather events as well. California did in fact also face droughts for the longest time, and that has been also said to be part of the entire kind of heat wave that we are looking at. So droughts are returning to California at a very regular interval, and I'm just looking at one of those articles where people were asking when will California's drought end, and they've been talking from 2011 onwards, when supposedly is when the drought had in fact settled in.
All right, then let's wrap up today's page one, ladies and gentlemen. We've tried to cover a lot. If there's anything that you still think we missed out on, do let us know. You can get down in the comment section, and we'll try to bring a balanced perspective, a nuanced discussion if debate is not your cup of tea. But before we end this show, Varghese, one more thing, and it's important to read this out. It's India's message to the United States on Bangladesh being not an interference. This coming in from Quadr. Awami League General Secretary and Road Transport and Bridges Minister Obaidul Quadr has said India's message to the United States regarding Bangladesh should not be perceived as interference in the country's internal matters. He is quoted as saying, both India and the United States share mutual interests in this region, particularly with respect to regional politics. Therefore, when India communicates with the United States, it is done for their own interests, Quadr said while speaking at an awareness program on dengue in the capital. Earlier on Friday, German-based Deutsche Welle and Indian media Ananda Bazar quoted diplomatic sources saying a message has been conveyed to Washington that New Delhi is not happy with the current role of the United States on the upcoming national elections in Bangladesh. India believes weakening the Sheikh Hasina government in Bangladesh will not be good for either India or the United States. And Sheikh Hasina's, recent visit to India, also, her bonhomie with Prime Minister Modi, it is quite cordial. I mean, the relations.
Sheikh Hasina represents the moderate voice of Bangladesh, and the other option that you have is extremist voice. And whenever there are extremists taking power in Bangladesh, trouble starts on our northeastern borders, and they do harbor anti-India outfits also, and they don't act in our interests. They try to disrupt the close relationships that is there between the people of Bangladesh as well as with India. So I think weakening Sheikh Hasina would be the worst thing that could happen if the United States is planning to raise issues about
Asked about India's interference, Quadr said, we'd prefer not to discuss this topic. India has been a tested friend to us. Our transition from power in 1975 was not facilitated by India. Similarly, in 2001, our departure from power was a result of the people's choice, nothing else. He further said, those who claim India has intervened by sending a message to the United States, then what happened in 1971? India provided crucial support during that time, offering aid and shelter to our refugees and even deploying soldiers who contributed significantly. They also provided weapons and training. Is it not an interference in internal affairs? So this is India's message to the United States on Bangladesh is not an interference, says Quadr. Well, that's all the time we have for you in today's Page 1, ladies and gentlemen. Varghese, many thanks for joining with us, our very own weatherman and Mandi man, and our philanthropist as well. Lots more coming in the day. Our build-up to Chandrayaan, that's going to be our focus. In the evening at 7 p.m, the real debate, the real talk that you shouldn't miss out on. 8 p.m, all the international news under the global lens. And of course, in the afternoon, news from South India with Sudha Sadaman. That's all the time I have for you. This is Kabir Naki signing off. Keep watching Newsline Back.
इंजीनियरिंग कर रहे हैं क्योंकि सभी लोग कर रहे हैं.
Coaching is now starting from grade 3, 4, 5,